Things were strange from the very beginning. A woman named Carol dialed 911 and claimed that somebody was inside her house. My partner and I went over to investigate, searching the place inch by inch, but only to come up empty-handed. Usually, this could easily be explained away. The mind of an older person living alone eventually starts deteriorating. The onset of dementia and other mental issues start to take their toll on their lives. It's quite sad, really. However, this woman is only 24 years old. In other words, the probability of all this being inside her head was extremely unlikely. She also seemed to be terribly distraught by this whole situation. Why would she be acting? We left her place and told her to contact us if she sees anything again. Honestly, there wasn't much more we could do for her at that point. We were somewhat surprised when we received another call from her the very next day. We drove down there and searched the entire house again, and again we found nothing. Problem was, the house seemed different this time. Almost as if there was some subtle detail that made it a separate place from the one we were inside yesterday. My partner, Beck, said that he noticed it as well, but couldn't quite pinpoint what was wrong with it. We decided not to say anything about this as we told Carol we still couldn't find anything. This time, however, she asked us to stay. I recorded him, she told us. She took out her phone and told us to watch the video that she pulled up. It was footage of her inside the house. She was running around, breathing frantically. And that's when we see him. A large figure, covered head to toe in what appears to be a black bodysuit. He lumbers towards the camera as Carol screams and ducks into a room, locking it from the inside. There's a few bangs on the door before we can hear footsteps walking away. We aren't sure how to react to this footage, but we try to anyway. We come to the conclusion that the man must have left once Carol got behind the door. However, the front door was locked when we came in, and Carol told us that she hadn't left the room the entire time. Did the man have the keys to her house? That would explain a lot, but it would also make the situation a lot worse. We decided to keep an eye on her house for the night. We discreetly parked about a block down the road in an unmarked car. My partner and I were both fully alert and ready to move in as soon as we saw something strange. At around 2 a.m., we noticed somebody walking across the road, in the direction of the house. However, it wasn't the man. It was Carol herself. Beck and I must have had the same confused look on our faces. What the hell? I thought. We got out of the car and made our way over to the house, knocking sternly on the front door. Nobody answered. We could see lights flickering on and off intermittently inside, but we're unsure of what it was supposed to mean. Could she be telling us to leave with the lights? Then, a few moments later, we got a call from dispatch. They told us that Carol had called 911 again, saying that there were now multiple people inside her house. They asked if we needed backup. We said yes. Without another moment of hesitation, we forced the door open and made our way inside. The living room lights were still flickering on and off, but as we looked at the light switch, we saw nobody was touching it. We called out for Carol, but nobody responded. In fact, the place was quiet. Dead quiet. I could see the neighboring houses starting to turn on their lights from the commotion we were causing. We rushed up the stairs and started sweeping each room, but there was nothing. We searched the place inch by inch, but nothing was here. Not even Carol, who we clearly saw enter the house a few moments earlier. As I paced around in worried confusion, Beck said something that made me pause. "There's rooms that shouldn't be here." "What are you talking about?" "I've been counting them," he said. There were 9 rooms total the last time we came here. There are 10 now. I forced myself to think hard. Subconsciously, I knew that something was off, but I couldn't put my finger on exactly what it was. The basement. There was only one door that led down there last time. Beck nodded at me. There are 2 basement doors now. I didn't know what to think. I looked at my surroundings and tried to make an assessment, but there was really none to be made. Suddenly, we heard a knock on the front door about 10 seconds later. It sounded aggressive. We looked out of the living room windows, but aren't met with the red and blue police lights we were expecting. We were hesitant to answer, of course. I decided to take a few steps forward, but Beck pulled me back. He gave me this worried look, his face completely drained of color. He whispered, "We left the door open, remember?" He was right. Then my radio started crackling. Another call from dispatch. They told us that we needed to leave the house immediately. That Carol called again, saying this time we were going to die inside of the house. The knocking stopped. But then we could hear movement coming from below us in the basement. Something was inside the house with us. We decided that this was enough. We needed to get the hell out of there. As we started making our way towards the front door, we heard a voice coming from the kitchen. It was Carol. She came out of the kitchen and blocked our path to the door. She looked detached, with blank, beady eyes staring right at us. "Did you find him?" she asked, without any semblance of emotion in her voice. "I think he might be in the basement. Can you go check and see?" Beck and I were frozen in shock. She just continued looking at us, gesturing towards the basement door. The footsteps down there sounded like they were running in circles now. We ignored her request, abruptly pushing past her and heading out of the front door. Our backup still wasn't there yet, so we decided to just get into our car and wait. However, just as we were making our way to the car, we saw somebody down the street peering through our driver's side window. He was large, dressed in what appeared to be a black full bodysuit. He looked away from the window and directly at us. It was hard to tell from this far away, but the suit didn't appear to have any eye holes. After a moment, Beck broke the silence. "Sir, please back away from the vehicle." His voice cracked in the middle of the sentence. I knew he was just as terrified as I was. As soon as Beck stopped talking, the figure began running towards us. It was fast. Really fast. In the time that it took us to pull out our guns, we realized that it already moved past us, heading into the house. We wasted no more time running to the car, locking the doors and waiting until backup arrived. When backup finally arrived, we were extensively questioned while what appeared to be a SWAT team searched the house. However, it wasn't the police chief asking us questions. Instead, it was some guy in a suit whom I've never seen before. He asked us things like, how many doors were in the house? And what did Carol look like exactly? And did we ever see a man wandering around outside? We answered inconclusively to pretty much all of them. We had no idea what the hell was going on. At one point, I noticed SWAT members carrying multiple stretchers outside and loading them into their truck. Not an ambulance, mind you, but their own truck. Eventually, the man who was questioning us just told us to go home and to report to our station as usual. He told us not to worry about the things we've experienced here. I'm not sure how he expects us to do that. We drove back to the station in complete silence. As we were parking our car, Beck finally let out a heavy sigh. "That guy Jack is crazy, man." I looked at him in confusion. "What are you talking about? Who's Jack?" He reciprocated an equally confused stare at me. "What do you mean? The guy who owns the house we were just at?" "What?" I replied, It was a lady named Carol. How did you forget? We held each other's chaotic gaze for what felt like 10 minutes, but we said nothing further. We both silently exited the vehicle and started heading our separate ways home. I just figured after the unexplainable events that happened, it must have gotten to my partner, and he just needed some rest. I tried not to think about it too much as my head hit my pillow. I managed to drift off to sleep about an hour later, only to be woken up immediately by the telephone. Barely coherent, I answered it. "We need you to come in," a voice on the other line said. "A woman just called. Said that somebody is in her house." My heart sank slightly. It sank completely when they told me the address. It was Carol again. I hung up the phone and slumped back into my bed. I think this time, I'll just let someone else handle the call instead.